live with moral clarity. Not moral opinions, not moral moods, not the kind of values that change when pressure hits. Moral clarity means you know what is right, you know what is wrong, and you do not pretend the line is blurry when it benefits you. Most men today are not weak because they lack strength. They are weak because they lack clarity. They live in fog, they live in excuses, they live in endless justification. They call it being open-minded. They call it being understanding. They call it being flexible. But what it really is cowardice dressed up as intelligence. A man without moral clarity is easy to control. He can be pushed by fear. He can be bribed by comfort. He can be seduced by approval. Because he has no internal law, so the world becomes his law, his friends become his law, his impulses become his law, his appetite becomes his law, and a man who lives without internal law is not a man, he is a puppet. A puppet may look alive, but he is not free, he is moved. This is why men feel lost, because they do not stand for anything solid. They react, they drift, they compromise, they perform. Then they sit alone and wonder why they feel ashamed. Shame is not always an enemy. Sometimes shame is your conscience screaming, telling you you are living beneath your standard. But you silence it, you numb it, you drown it in distraction. And the more you silence your conscience, the weaker you become. Because conscience is part of your spine. It is the internal pressure that keeps you straight. When conscience dies, men become corrupted. And corruption is not always dramatic. Corruption often looks like normal life. A man who lies to avoid discomfort. A man who cheats because he thinks nobody will know. A man who betrays his principles for approval. A man who sells his dignity for pleasure. A man who avoids responsibility and calls it self-care. That is corruption. Not because it harms others first. Because it destroys the man from the inside, and once a man is destroyed inside, he will eventually destroy something outside. His relationship, his family, his reputation, his future. Because a man who lives in fog becomes unstable, and instability spreads. So live with moral clarity, not because you want to be seen as good. A warrior does not perform goodness. He embodies principle. He lives under law. He lives in truth. And truth is what gives a man strength that cannot be bought. Let me tell you why this matters more than anything. You can build a strong body and still be weak in character. You can build money and still be poor inside. You can build skill and still be dangerous in the wrong way. Without moral clarity, strength turns into arrogance, money turns into greed, skill turns into manipulation. And the world has enough of that already. Moral clarity is what makes masculine power clean. It is what keeps you from becoming a monster. It is what keeps you from becoming a coward. It is what makes you stable, and stability is what men are supposed to provide. You want discipline, power, legacy. Then you need moral clarity. Because discipline without morality is obsession. Power without morality is tyranny. Legacy without morality is a curse. A man must know what he stands for, and he must stand for it when it costs him. That is the test. Morality is easy when it is comfortable. The real test is when doing the right thing costs you money, costs you approval, costs you pleasure, costs you ease. When you have to choose between being respected by the world and being respected by your own conscience. A man who lives with moral clarity chooses conscience every time. Now I am going to lay down principles, not polite ideas, principles you can live by. Principle 1. Moral clarity begins with admitting there is truth. Many men live like truth is a personal preference. They say, everyone has their truth. That is a weak way to live because it gives you permission to justify anything. It removes accountability. If truth is only opinion, then nothing is wrong and nothing is right. Then the strongest voice wins, or the loudest crowd wins. That is chaos. A warrior does not live in chaos. He lives in truth. Truth exists whether you like it or not. Truth has consequences. Truth does not care about your feelings. So you begin by accepting this. There is right and wrong. There is good and evil. There are actions that build life and actions that destroy it. And you must choose which side you are on. Principle 2. Moral clarity requires a code. You cannot live by clarity if you have no written standard. Most men live by vague feelings. They say, I'm a good guy. What does that mean? Good compared to what? Good when it is easy. Good when no one is watching. Good until temptation appears. A code removes vagueness. A code says, this is what I do. This is what I will not do. A code is a line in the sand. Without a code, you will move the line whenever it benefits you. So write your principles, not 10 pages of philosophy, simple laws. I do not lie. I keep my word. I do not betray loyalty. I do not exploit weakness. I protect the innocent. I speak truth even when it costs. I control my impulses. I do not use people. I do not sell my dignity. These are examples, but you need your own law, because a man without law becomes lawless. Principle 3. Moral clarity demands you stop lying to yourself. Most men lie to themselves more than they lie to others. They say, it's not that bad. It doesn't matter. No one will know. I had to. I deserve it. That is the language of weakness. That is the language of corruption. A man who lives with moral clarity cannot afford self-deception. Self-deception is the first step toward becoming someone you hate, so you must develop the ability to tell yourself the truth, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because the truth hurts only once. The lie hurts every day. Principle 4. Moral clarity is choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. Most men are not tempted by obvious evil. They are tempted by convenient evil, small compromises, half-truths, silence when they should speak, avoidance when they should act. Weak men choose easy wrong because it feels safe. Strong men choose hard right because it keeps their conscience clean. A clean conscience is a form of power. A man with a clean conscience walks differently. He speaks differently. He sleeps differently because he is not haunted by himself. Principle 5. If you tolerate cowardice, you become a coward. Cowardice is not only running from a fight. Cowardice is running from responsibility, running from truth, running from discomfort, running from consequences. Cowardice hides behind nice words. It calls itself peace. It calls itself patience. It calls itself being mature. But if it is avoidance, it is cowardice. A warrior knows when to be calm. A warrior also knows when to confront. Moral clarity means you do not tolerate cowardice in yourself. You identify it. You expose it. Then you correct it. Principle 6. Moral clarity requires you to speak plainly. Weak men speak in fog. They hint, they imply, they manipulate, they avoid direct speech. Why? Because direct speech creates consequences, and weak men fear consequences. A man with moral clarity speaks plainly. He does not use fancy language to hide his intentions. He does not twist words. He does not play games. He says what he means. He means what he says. This builds trust. Trust builds reputation. Reputation builds legacy. Principle 7. Moral clarity means your private life matches your public image. Many men look strong in public and are weak in private. They speak about discipline, then indulge. They talk about loyalty, then betray. They talk about truth, then lie. That split creates internal weakness. It creates shame, and shame makes a man unstable. A man with moral clarity is integrated. One man, the same in the dark as he is in the light. That does not mean perfect. It means honest. It means accountable. It means he corrects what is wrong instead of hiding it. Principle 8. Moral clarity protects women and children. A civilization stands on the protection of the innocent. Women and children should not have to live in fear of men. This is why moral clarity is masculine duty. A man without clarity becomes predatory. He uses his power selfishly. He exploits. He manipulates. He takes. That is not masculinity. That is corruption. A warrior uses power to protect, not to prey. So moral clarity means you defend the weak. You do not exploit them. You do not joke about it. You do not tolerate it. You draw the line. Principle 9. Moral clarity requires discipline. You cannot live with clarity if your impulses rule you. Impulse makes you rationalize. Impulse makes you justify. Impulse makes you compromise. Discipline gives you space between desire and action. In that space, you can choose the right thing. Without discipline, you will choose what feels good. And what feels good is often what is wrong. So if you want moral clarity, build self-control. Control appetite, control lust, control anger, control your tongue. Because your morals will collapse under the weight of your impulses if you do not train restraint. Principle 10. Moral clarity means you accept consequences without complaint. A man with clarity does not play victim when he is caught. He does not blame others. He does not cry about fairness. He accepts consequences because he accepts responsibility. Responsibility is the mark of a man. A boy dodges consequences. A man carries them. This is why moral clarity creates strength. It forces you to become accountable. Principle 11. Moral clarity means you choose who you become, not what you want. Men who lack clarity live for cravings. They chase what they want. Then they wake up in a life they hate. A man with clarity asks a different question. Not, what do I want? What kind of man am I becoming? That question changes everything, because many pleasures become ugly when you see them as identity. Many temptations become disgusting when you see them as corruption. When you ask, what does this make me? You begin to choose properly. Principle 12. Moral clarity is not arrogance. It is humility before truth. A man can be morally clear and still be humble. Humility means you are willing to be corrected. You are willing to admit error. You are willing to change. Arrogance is refusing correction. Arrogance is believing you are above the law. That is where men become tyrants. So moral clarity requires humility. You stand on principle, but you do not worship your ego. You worship truth. Principle 13. Moral clarity means you do not sell your soul for approval. Many men compromise because they want to be liked. They fear rejection. They fear being called names. They fear conflict. So they stay silent. They laugh at what they should condemn. They agree with what they know is wrong. They become weak. A man with clarity accepts that being respected by everyone is impossible. He chooses to be respected by his conscience. That is enough. Principle 14. Moral clarity creates peace. Not the false peace of avoidance, real peace, the peace of knowing you are living in alignment, the peace of knowing you are not hiding, the peace of knowing your life is clean. That peace makes you calm, and calm makes you powerful. A calm man does not need to prove himself. He does not need to shout. He simply stands. Principle 15. Moral clarity is the foundation of legacy. Your legacy is not your money. It is not your followers. It is not your status. Your legacy is the kind of man you were when it mattered, when you were tempted, when you were pressured, when you were tired, when you were alone. That is what your children will remember. That is what your wife will remember. That is what the world will feel after you are gone. So build a legacy worth inheriting. Now let me speak directly to you. If you feel confused, it is because you have lived too long without law. You have tolerated small compromises. You have excused weakness. You have justified what you know is wrong, and you have paid for it with your peace. So stop pretending the line is blurry. Most men know exactly what is right. They just don't want to pay the cost. The cost is discomfort. The cost is conflict. The cost is losing approval. But that cost is cheaper than losing yourself. Because when you lose yourself, you become unstable. And unstable men destroy what they touch. So choose moral clarity. Choose a code. Then live by it. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not wait to feel ready. Do not wait for other people to agree. Your morality is not a group project. It is a personal duty. Here is your practical command. Write your code tonight. 5 laws, only 5. Simple, clear, non-negotiable. Examples: I do not lie. I keep my word. I do not betray loyalty. I control my impulses. I defend the weak. Then start living it tomorrow. You will fail sometimes. Correct immediately. Do not excuse. Do not hide. Correct. And keep moving. Because moral clarity is not about never failing. It is about never pretending. It is about being honest, accountable, governed. A man under moral law is a dangerous man in the right way. Dangerous to corruption, dangerous to lies, dangerous to weakness. A man under moral law cannot be bought. He cannot be seduced. He cannot be easily controlled. That is masculine strength. That is what the world needs. Not loud men, not angry men. Men who are clean, men who are clear, men who stand. Live with moral clarity, and you will gain something rare. Peace, power, and a legacy your bloodline can be proud of.